I'm Mark Yusko, and this is Real Visionaries. The interesting thing about Morgan Creek is, we started out of our endowment roots. I brought the team with me from the University of North Carolina. We set out to bring that endowment model of investing to other investors. Back in 2004, we started out as a typical RIA and manager of managers firm. We did that for a decade or more. And what was interesting about it, over the time, we'd always had what I call a culture of co-investment. We would invest with outside managers, then we would co-invest in their best ideas. And over time, that desire for clients to look at co-investments increased. And that led us down the path of technology. We invested in, ride-sharing technology or companies like Facebook and Alibaba and e-commerce. And one of the things we also spent a lot of time in was hedge funds. And I was lucky. I had Julian Robertson as a mentor. He's a Carolina grad, got to know him through that. And we backed a lot of the people that spun out of Tiger. And one of those managers was Dan Moorhead when he formed Pantera Macro. And Dan in 2013 introduced me to digital assets and crypto. It took me a while to catch on, but over the past years, we have migrated within Morgan Creek Capital Management to create an entity called Morgan Creek Digital, which we launched back in 2018, that now propagates our venture capital strategy and our public market strategies or liquid strategies in the digital asset ecosystem. So we've had a migration over time of what we do at Morgan Creek, but it all has its roots at that endowment model of investing, value style investing, and embracing innovation as an asset class. That's our big thing, is we believe that you want to invest in things early before others even understand, because that's how you generate the greatest wealth long term. So one of the things I do like to talk about is the origin story. So flipping it around and turning the camera on myself, or I'm known by my kids as the selfie king. But my origin story is really interesting. I grew up out on the left coast up in Seattle. Then I moved around a lot, went to 3 different high schools, hated my parents for that, but I have forgiven them since. But it did teach me how to be resilient and how to meet people and get to know them and build relationships, which I think has been valuable later in life. Went to college at Notre Dame, thought I wanted to be an architect, didn't like that, tried engineering. That's what Dad wanted me to do. Didn't really like that. Had a girlfriend who said, hey, do something you like. So what do I like? I like science. So I did biology and chemistry, worked in the emergency department for a couple summers, thought I wanted to be an emergency room doc, but I just couldn't answer the question on the med school application, why do you want to be a doctor? And so I decided to go get a job back in 1985. If you got a pre-med degree, a couple jobs, you can be a consultant in healthcare, or you can be a pharmaceutical sales rep. I'm not 6'4" and handsome, so I wasn't going to be a pharmaceutical sales rep. So took the job as a consultant. But the partner said, hey, you've taken no business classes. Why don't you apply to business school, see if you can get in? And if you do, go do that, and then we'll hire you afterwards. So I was lucky. I got into University of Chicago, went there, got an MBA, and then did get an offer from Anderson Consulting to go back, but got another offer from an insurance company right there in Illinois. My wife was working downtown at Gen Re, so we decided to stay. And my life's just a series of happy accidents. The guy who was doing investments retired, so I took over the investment portfolio, managed bonds. Then I went to a firm called Discipline Investment Advisors, which was the original quant shop. 2 professors at Northwestern. We ran about $1 billion back when $1 billion was a lot of money, and would have stayed there forever. But I got the call. I got the call from the alma mater to come back to Notre Dame, work in the endowment office. Did that, spent 5 years there with Scott as the number 2 guy, and then came down to North Carolina to run Carolina's endowment. So just a series of happy accidents that took me from kind of pre-med all the way to being an investment manager. Motivation is a really important thing, and incentives, I think, are a really important thing. And I always describe my life as I said, a series of happy accidents. So I didn't plan to be where I am, but I think I've embraced every step along the way. And one of the things that I really believe in is something called psychic income. And so my chapter 1, right, is I work for not-for-profits. I worked at my alma mater at Notre Dame. I worked at University of North Carolina. And while I was underpaid like everyone else that works at not-for-profits, I loved my job and I got psychic income from knowing that as we made the endowment better, that was good for professors and for students and for the university itself. And that was great. So that idea of psychic income is really important to me. And then there's a second piece of that. And maybe it's because of, going to Notre Dame, or maybe it's because of good upbringing from my parents or whatever. I really believe in this concept of servant leadership and that you should give back. And so, when I left the university world for my chapter 2 to build Morgan Creek, first thing I did is incorporate Morgan Creek. Second thing I did is steal an idea from Julian Robertson. He has the Tiger Foundation. So we have the Morgan Creek Foundation. 10% of our profits go into that foundation to focus on early childhood education, because I think it's the most important thing there is. If you can keep people educated and keep them on pace, they don't drop out of school, they don't end up in prison. Really important thing in my life. And so what kind of gets me out of bed is that ability. I've been blessed with many gifts and many friends and many relationships and opportunities, and just being in this great country. I want to give back. So that's part of what motivates me, and also learning. Right. I love to learn things. I love new ideas. I love doing this type of show where I get to talk to the most inspiring and legendary investors around the world and learn from them. I think I used to say I had the best job in the world. I got paid to get up every day and talk to the smartest people in the world. How can that not be awesome? And so if you can't learn things from that, if you can't find ways to then take that and give back. And so chapter 1, work for not-for-profits. Chapter 2, built an ISO asset management business. Chapter 3, I'm going to spend the next 20 years tokenizing the world and bringing digital asset ecosystem to life at Morgan Creek Digital. And then chapter 4, I'll teach. And if I think about all of the big ideas, crypto is number one. I went from spending none of my time in 2013 when Dan exposed me to it for the first time, to now all of my time and focusing every day, focused on backing the best companies in the digital asset ecosystem. And so it was very logical to me to go out and seek some of the best and brightest minds in the digital asset ecosystem to bring to Real Visionaries. And again, just the blessing that is having a great platform like Real Vision makes people like the people we're going to talk about want to come on and talk to the members of the community. And so my first interview that I'll be talking to is Brian Estes. Brian is this extraordinary investor, even a better person. He has an amazing story of overcoming adversity in his life and building this amazing business. Somebody who could have done anything they wanted to do in the traditional investing world, had lots of great experience in the traditional world around investment banking and investment management, but saw the crypto light, like many of us, and decided to build an infrastructure around gaining access to some of the best companies in the ecosystem.
Our head law enforcement officer at that company, he was telling me that his best friend's daughter just got a job at Coinbase. And I was like, oh, can you make an introduction? And so he introduced me to her dad. I was like, I'd like to talk to your daughter. Coinbase is a great company. Can you introduce me? And so she calls me and she goes, how can I help? I'm like, I know you don't have stock because you just got hired, but if you come across any of your new friends at Coinbase, if they're interested in selling some of their stock, let me know. Like I want to buy Coinbase stock. Yeah. The very next day, I get an email from Olaf, the first employee at Coinbase. And he's like, I hear you're looking for some equity. I think I might be able to help you. And so he helped organize some of the employees who needed liquidity.
Some of the companies that are building the groundbreaking infrastructure to make the digital asset ecosystem a reality, but does it in such a unique and special way by buying shares from the existing employees who are looking for a little liquidity. So he's a value buyer. He gets to buy things for, 10 cents, 20 cents, 30 cents, 40 cents on the dollar, sometimes higher. But his value discipline, his long duration approach, and his just joy for life in that he appreciates just every opportunity to add value, and just really, really enjoyed my time with Brian. In fact, we exchanged texts over the holidays saying, had so much fun together. Let's spend more time together in 2022. And I think people are really going to enjoy that interview. You follow that up with, again, one of my favorite people. And you're supposed to love all your children equally, so to speak. And we backed a lot of companies. But there's some entrepreneurs that you back where you just have a special bond. And Caitlin is really one of those, in the sense that Cathie Long was an icon in the asset management world. She was the head of one of the largest investment bank in the country's corporate program, educated corporate treasurers and CFOs about the benefits of long-term asset management, worked for some of the titans in the industry, but had a calling back to her home state of Wyoming. Went back to make a difference, got involved with her University of Wyoming, but more importantly, got involved with the legislature to help draft legislation and laws that make digital asset businesses more favorable in Wyoming.
I donated appreciated Bitcoin to the University of Wyoming to fund an endowment for female engineers. Thought it would just be a private thing. I'd been regularly giving to the University of Wyoming for years and years, and just thought, well, I'll just donate Bitcoin, and ran smack dab into Wyoming, had a bad money transmitter law. And that's how the whole thing got started, because the University of Wyoming Foundation, being a Wyoming corporation, could not do business with Coinbase and Circle, which had pulled out of Wyoming a couple of years before then.
Oh my gosh.
And so there was nobody who could liquidate their Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And so they couldn't take it. And I said, I'd been on the UW Foundation board previously, and I said, guys, you don't want to miss Bitcoin. I will help you fix this. And that's when I ended up deciding to come out and camp out. And the goal was very simple, just help Wyoming fix the money transmitter law.
And she has been instrumental in leading that charge, and now is a world recognized leader. So then in her spare time, she founded a digital bank, and went through the hard, arduous task of really focused on getting it right with the regulatory framework and having all the right licenses and all the right relationships with regulators. Because look, it is a reality that as we enter this third phase of the evolution of crypto assets, the first phase, 09 to 16 or 15, was first they ignore you. They really didn't care about this little science project that wasn't big enough. Then from 16 to 21, they laugh at you. Oh, look at those nerds over there with their digital assets and Bitcoin. Now they fight you. Because now what crypto does, what blockchain technology does, is it has the potential to disrupt the entire financial services ecosystem and build better, build on new infrastructure, and bring the promise of fintech, which there's no real tech in fintech. We're using ancient technology like Swift into the digital age. And so she has been a champion of that, and really a fantastic partner. And I think people are really going to enjoy that interview. And then to finish it up, I originally envisioned a series of what I call the OMGs, the old macro guys. Everyone knows about the OGs, the people who were there early, like the Brock Pierces and the Charlie Schrems, and they've read Bitcoin Billionaires and about the Winklevoss twins. I'm not one of those guys. Dan is not one of those guys. We kind of came a little bit later, but we are old guys, and we are old macro guys. But we see this opportunity as the greatest macro opportunity of our lifetime, of our age. And all of us have migrated to now the bulk of our time in this space. So talking to Dan Tapiero about what he's doing with 10T and his journey to come to that point. And Dan is an extraordinary macro talent, an investor who has compounded capital at huge returns and has been mentored by four of the most incredible investors of all time. He worked for Julian Robertson. He worked for Michael Steinhardt. He worked for Stan Druckenmiller. He worked for Stephen Cohen. all of those people imprinted on Dan certain elements of macro investing, of asset management, and it helped him form a foundation that has enabled him to build an extraordinary business to capitalize on this transition to the digital asset ecosystem.
Old macros understood how to work within the old framework to make money. Okay. What we have now is the beginning of an entirely new framework. So it's sort of like, I use these allusions sometimes. It's sort of like being a mortgage-backed trader in 1981, or I don't know when Ranieri broke out his first mortgage back. It's sort of like being a treasury bond option trader in 1979, when there's, 1,000 options traded a day or whatever the number was. But not only is it like that, so it's like that in some way. And then in another way, it's about a rebirth of an entire new financial economic system.
So when you think about real visionaries, people who have a real vision of the future, who've embraced that vision and who have a way to deliver an opportunity for others to participate, whether it's Brian, whether it's Caitlin, whether it's Dan, I think people are going to really enjoy this series.